under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless America.
Hi everyone, and welcome to ParrishTV.com with What's News in Parrish. And today we have a special guest, Mr. GregStuebe from the Florida House Representative of District 67. Welcome, Greg.
Thanks.
How are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. And I would like to start off today talking a little bit about yourself, Greg, a little bit about your background and what made you decide to run for District 67.
Well, first, thanks very much for having me on the show. I appreciate it, and spend a lot of time in Parrish. So thank you very much for having the opportunity to be with you all today. I was born and raised in Manatee County, and then from an early age was pretty involved in the agriculture industry, so got involved in that out in East Manatee County, and then decided to go to the University of Florida and get an undergraduate degree in animal science, beef cattle science, in agriculture. And then started getting involved in agricultural policy and foreign international trade policy at the University of Florida. So I then interned for the State House, interned for Congress, had the opportunity to be involved in leadership positions at the University of Florida, and decided that was something I wanted to do long term. So I decided to go to law school. And then my first semester of law school is when September 11th occurred. So I decided to graduate law school early and enlist in the Army. So after graduating law school, taking the bar, I went right into the military, did 3 years in after law school, did 3 years in the JAG Corps and did a year in the infantry. So I started in the infantry and then branch transferred about a year in to the JAG Corps. So I did about 4+ years in the Army, deployed to Iraq in 06 and 07, and then got out of active duty in 2008. So all the time I was doing this, I always wanted to come back and run for this state house seat because it was the district that I grew up in. It's the community that I love. So I decided as soon as I came back to start putting the pieces together to try to put a campaign together. And we announced my race in January of 2009. So I campaigned for almost 2 years.
Wow, that is extensive, isn't it?
It's a long time. A lot of people don't realize how much time and effort goes into putting a campaign together. But now the campaign's over. So that's basically what my background and why I decided to run.
Who was your mentor growing up?
I would say my mentor my entire life has been my father. He's obviously involved in his leadership capacity as the sheriff of Manatee County, but I've always, if I ever needed advice on anything, I always went to my father. So I definitely would say that my mentor all along has been my father. Wow,
amazing. And I've got to ask you this question. Were you surprised at the numbers, November 2nd? I know I was.
You look at the amount of Republicans versus Democrats, so you know that you're kind of dealing with a 60-40 split. And we knew if we got over more than 55 or 58 that we were doing pretty good. So it was surprising to see the numbers come in the way they did. And I think the Democrat got about 24% and the Independent got about 6%.
Right.
So it was good numbers to have, and we're proud of. And I think it's the work that we did for the 2 years and laying all the foundation that we did and going to all the meetings and going to all the events that we could go to try to get a good grassroots-based support of the community. And I was very happy with the results, both in the primary and in the general election. And I hope to serve this community for a long time. So
that is wonderful. And I got to tell you, I was very surprised at the numbers coming in, and so early in the evening. We were expecting to be attached to the TV set and to the news way into the wee hours of the night, and found out that around 9 or 10, it was all said and done. Wasn't it?
Well, it was even earlier than that. If you look at, if you go right on the Manatee County Elections, Supervisor of Elections website, you can see as soon as they run the data, and right at 7 o'clock they'll run the early voting ballots and they'll run the absentee ballots.
Right.
So pretty fast you'll have an idea of how you're trending.
Right.
And then we stayed true to the numbers. Our early voting and absentee numbers were almost as identical as our election day votes, so that was good, because sometimes those numbers will change. But we knew pretty fast once the numbers started coming in, the percentage they came in at. And Manatee has the majority of the district. We've got Southern Hillsborough and Northeast Sarasota County in the district as well. But if the numbers come in really strong in Manatee, it's it benefits well with the other counties. So.
And that's a good point that you bring up, the extensive district that you do have. What is that?
I go from Riverview all the way down to Clark Road in Sarasota. So it's the largest district in the state by population. It's not by size, but geographically it is fairly large too. Because to drive just from Riverview to Clark Road in Sarasota is going to take like an hour, hour and a half.
Easily.
So it is a large district, and it's challenging. It has its benefits and its disadvantages. Obviously, driving to Tampa and Southern Hillsborough County to turn around and drive all the way to downtown Sarasota County can be challenging. But it also gives you the ability to meet people in different counties and represent different counties and be part of, I'm part of now 3 delegations, in the Hillsborough delegation, the Manatee, and the Sarasota. So I enjoy that because I have the diversity of a district that has 3 counties and a very diverse population, which is very good. Now, with reapportionment this year, a lot of these districts are going to change.
Ah, yes.
And they're going to have to make mine smaller because of the change in population. Because we are the biggest, when they do the census and spread it out amongst the 120 state reps, they're going to have to change the district somehow.
Wow.
And with Amendments 5 and 6 passing, I think we're going to have to use county lines and more geographical boundaries than have been used in the past. So it'll be interesting to see how the legislature redraws the lines for redistricting and how this district will look in 2012.
Wow. And you've definitely hit the ground running, literally. Just last week you were up in Tallahassee, I believe. And I would like to know, what are the challenges that Florida faces, and more specifically Manatee County, in the upcoming years? Right.
There's obviously the biggest problem right now, and the biggest issue that I think everybody's talking about is jobs and economic development and small business growth. With state unemployment, I think I saw the numbers was 11.7%. Our county in Manatee is actually higher than that. The last numbers I saw were like 12 or 13%.
That's correct.
So our focus from a legislative perspective has to be on the budget, has to be on encouraging small business growth and economic development, and trying to bring jobs to our districts and jobs to the state. So by far, that's the number one issue. And if you talk to, especially anybody that just got elected, but if you talk to any of the legislators right now, that's mostly their focus. Even the leadership. We've got Dean Cannon's the Speaker of the House, and we got Mike Herodopoulos, the Senate President.
Correct.
And both of them have made it very clear that their focus is going to be on jobs and the budget, and trying to make Florida a more beneficial place for small businesses to prosper.
Very good. Thank you very much. And you do have your hands full right now. Ladies and gentlemen, why don't we take a quick break? Please don't touch that mouse. We'll be right back.
Parrish Professionals Networking Group, a true source of business referrals. Discover Parrish. Live, work, and play in the heart of Tampa Bay.
Join Parrish Professionals today!
Hi everyone, welcome back. We're here with GregStuebe, and following up on what we were just talking about, Greg, I'm concerned about small business owners. How is it that we're actually going to help small business owners in Manatee County?
One of the biggest things that I campaigned on was doing whatever we can to help small businesses. And I think the focus needs to be on lessening their tax burden. Governor-elect Scott has talked about slowly doing away with the business income tax. So I think anything along those lines, lowering the tax burden on small businesses, whether it be the business income tax or any other taxes, and cutting the regulations that a lot of our small businesses have to deal with from a, just burdensome over-regulation, the red tape. And I think if we can lower their tax burden, give them the opportunity to be prosperous, well, then they can hire a couple more people, and that will create the economic development that we need in our communities. The government can't create jobs, so it's really beholding on small businesses. And if you look at the state, if you go on sunbiz.org,
yes,
99% of your businesses are considered small businesses. So that's really the lifeblood of our economy here in the state of Florida, and we really need to do from a state's perspective what we can to make them successful. So.
Now, how about the high-paying jobs that have just fled the state of Florida? How are we going to bring those back into
And a
this
good
area?
example of that is the boating industry that has slowly left Manatee County.
Thank you.
Same type of things. I mean, we need to lower the business income tax. When businesses look at us, the state of Florida, versus Mississippi, Georgia, North Carolina, and they're deciding to go to other states, then we need to look at why those businesses are making those decisions. Whether it be lowering impact fees for a couple of years when they move back into this community, whatever the case may be, we really need to look at our policies from a state's perspective, give incentives to small businesses, give incentives to businesses that are wanting to relocate in our state, whether it be tax incentives or whether it be incentives to just move into the area. We really need to focus on those type of policies from a state perspective to make the state of Florida a place where people want to move their businesses and set up shop. Because everybody wants to come and live and play in our community because
That's
it's
correct.
Florida. So it should be easy for businesses to make a decision to come here, and we need to make that easy from a tax perspective and from a regulation perspective for our businesses. And I think that you'll see a swing and change in that, and businesses will start to come here if we make those changes.
Very good. Now, you talked a little bit on your platform about stabilizing the housing market. How exactly are you planning on doing that, Greg?
Well, and I do some foreclosure work as an attorney. I think you're going to actually see a lot of legislation this year too to try to curb that, to try to curb the foreclosures, to try to stabilize the housing market. And it's the same thing. If we can bring jobs to our community, if we're able to make our small businesses successful, and that brings jobs to our community, then those people that have those jobs are going to be able to purchase homes, and that's going to stabilize our housing market. So I think it's a all-around approach with our small businesses
Yes.
and the housing market to be able to bring everything together. And I think that starts with making small businesses successful.
So it's really, it goes hand in hand, if they will. Now, what are we doing for those people that are ongoing right now in foreclosure or short sales? How are we tackling this arena?
The Florida Supreme Court, starting this year, instituted a mandatory mediation program. Then the 12th Judicial Circuit, which is what we sit in, which is Sarasota, Manatee, instituted an administrative order off of that Supreme Court order, making it mandatory for people to have mediation prior to their homes being foreclosed. But I tell you, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. I represent several homeowners that are in the situation where they want to stay in their home. They can make some payments, and the banks just aren't willing to work with them on modifications or work with them on their payments. So I hope there's some things that we can do from a state's perspective to help curb the amount of foreclosures, because it's inundating the courts right now too.
Oh, yes.
So I think you'll actually see, I would stay tuned to this coming session, because there's some other real estate attorneys that have gotten elected to the House, and I think that you will see some legislation in this area to help homeowners that are in those circumstances.
Well, I look forward to keeping up with that and hopefully bringing you back and talking some more about that.
Absolutely.
Our well and dear healthcare reform. And you know, in my industry, that has been a huge impact. Are you for, against? Should I even ask that question?
Well, I'm a Republican, so certainly didn't agree with the Obamacare. And I think with what has happened nationally, congressionally, you have a whole new House that's now a majority Republican. And most of those people that got elected campaigned on the fact that they would repeal Obamacare. So I think you'll see the U.S. Congressional House take a lot of steps to try to repeal the whole thing or repeal portions of Obamacare. From a state's perspective, McCollum started a lawsuit against it, saying that it was unconstitutional. The new Attorney General-elect Pam Bondi said that she would continue that lawsuit. So she got elected saying that she would continue that lawsuit. So I think from a state's perspective, you'll see that continue. And I think you'll see the states, especially Florida, take a more proactive approach as to the state's rights and saying, look, federal government, you've stepped over your jurisdiction here, and we, from the state's perspective, our rights have been intruded upon. So I think you'll see the states kind of stand up and tell the federal government, enough is enough. We need to be able to dictate our policy in our state, that's what's the best for the state of Florida. Because part of that law is requiring Florida now, I think it's like 1.8 million new Medicaid providers, and the state's going to have to fund that. Well, how is the state going to be able to fund that? Right now, we're looking at a $2 billion deficit. So in 3 or 4 years, as those timelines take effect with Obamacare,
Right.
we're going to have to care for 1.4, 1.8 million more Medicaid participants. How are we going to be able to fund that from the budget? Because in the state, we have to balance our budget every year.
Exactly.
So either we're going to have to cut more spending to be able to fund Medicaid, or we're going to have to raise taxes. And there's nobody that I've talked to in our legislature that's willing to raise taxes at this point. So hopefully there'll be some good things moving forward with the states and this lawsuit, and hopefully the U.S. Congress will repeal portions of that so it doesn't put these burdens on our states and our states' budgets.
And also on our small business owners as
Right.
well, correct?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I'm looking forward to seeing some work there. I know we have a hard road in front of us with Mr. Obama, President Obama.
I think you'll see some changes. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people got elected on repealing that, so I think you'll see definitely in the U.S. House some changes on that law.
Good to hear. And now just talking a little bit, segueing to Parrish and what's important to our viewers. What do you think the expansion, and we've had a massive expansion of roads in 301
Right.
area and the Fort Hammer Bridge, which is coming up, I think they're groundbreaking in March 2011. What do you foresee the economic impact in our area with that?
Well, I think the economic impact will be great. I used to live off State Road 64 and dealt with the expansion on 64 for years and years and years, and it took years in order for it to occur. But now it's great to have the 3 lanes on 64. Now 301's dealing with that same expansion, and I think because of the growth out in eastern Manatee County and in Parrish, you really need that expansion. And with the Fort Hammer Bridge, the economic development of having people in Parrish being able to just cross the bridge and come down to Manatee County or drive to Lakewood Ranch. I guess it'll be a straight shot to Lakewood Ranch.
Yeah.
So I think those type of transportation initiatives will be great for economic development. And it's going to be great that people in Parrish, I live in Parrish now,
Yes.
it'll be great that people in Parrish now can not have to either drive all the way to Interstate and come down, or drive all the way to Rye or Lorain and come down. So it should have a huge impact to the region, especially Parrish, because I think you'll see more people being willing to move there because it'll be a quicker commute and they won't have to worry about driving around.
Very good, thank you. Yes, and we look forward to that too. And tell me, Greg, how is a good way to contact you for the average citizen in Parrish, Palmetto, Ellington?
That's
How do they
a
contact
great
you?
question. Our district office is not set up yet, but if you go online to myfloridahouse.gov, you can get all of our contact information for our office, both our office in Tallahassee and our district office. It'll have my legislative aide's name and my district secretary's name. And that's probably the easiest and fastest way to contact me. We should have that up and running in the next couple of weeks, so I would assume by our first committee week in the second week in December, all those numbers should be up and working. Our Tallahassee office is up and running now, and
Very
the
good.
email worked before. The email started the day we got elected.
And what is that email address?
It's greg.stuebe@myfloridahouse.gov. And if you can't remember the email address, you can go on the website and it'll say email your representative. So you can email me directly through the State House's website.
That's fantastic.
Mhm.
Thank you so
Yep.
much for joining us here today
Absolutely.
at What's
Yeah.
News in Parrish. And please come back and join us for our next session of What's News in Parrish. Thank you.
Thanks. Yep.
PJ's Sandwich Shop, a Parrish landmark since 1984, located in the heart of Parrish on US Highway 301. Voted the best sweet tea in town and a local favorite. The folks here bring the highest quality meats, cheeses, and veggies right to your sandwich. Family owned and operated, and serves only locally grown produce and handmade bread. Come in and give us a try or let us cater your event. Delivery is available. PJ's Sandwich Shop. Let's eat fresh right from the farm, not a franchise.